Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Professor, you know I'm going to keep pestering you about my week 3 quiz until...
Yep, I know.
So long as we're clear.
All right. So yesterday we talked about yesterday we talked about how to optimize like cutting speed or some other parameter. It didn't have to be cutting speed. That was the one we chose. But how to optimize that cutting speed to have the operations, the value-added operations on our part at the lowest cost overall. So you factor in the cost of changing the tools and the cost of the opportunity cost of not making the parts while you're changing the tools and all those things. You factor all that in, and we found that it's possible with speed to find an optimal speed to make your parts. Now, typically you wouldn't do that type of an analysis unless you were making, really, unless your customers want to buy the parts faster than you can make them. But the principles involved, knowing that cutting faster will allow me to sell more parts more quickly, right? But it also will cost more because the tools wear out. So having that intuitive understanding is going to be a big help to you as you work as engineers. But what I want to focus on today is really at the very beginning of the class, we talked about the fact that manufacturing is making stuff people want, right? So manufacturing is making stuff people want. The way we know they want it is because they buy it from us. And so if we're making stuff that people are buying from us, that's almost always done by a company. Now, the company could consist of one person. And you'll see this a lot. You'll see it, there's people do crafting things and things like that, and they sell it in websites like Etsy or eBay and things like that. So the company could be one person and they might not be organized as a corporation, but most manufacturing, I want to say in the world, the data I've looked at is really about the United States, but I can't imagine that it's that much different, except for possibly in the developing world. But so don't quote the numbers, but the study that I looked at said that 90% of all manufacturing companies in the United States are small or medium-sized operations. To be a small and medium-sized operation in the United States, by the way they count these things, you have to have 500 or fewer employees. Now, to me, a company with 500 employees is a pretty big company, but that's how they count that metric. Of that group, so that 90%, which are small and small or medium companies, 80% of those are less than 50 employees. And so most manufacturing in the United States happens at companies with less than 50 employees. And I'm sure if you break that down, you'll find out that most of the ones under 50 employees are under 20 employees. I haven't seen it broken down that far yet, but most manufacturing in the United States happens at small companies. Has anybody ever worked at a small company or have a parent that owns a small company? You can say yes in the participant window. I get 1, 2, 1, 2, 5. It's somebody I don't normally call on. Julia, did you work at a small company?
Yeah, I worked at a company that was about, I want to say 10 to 11 people.
10 to 11 people. What day of the week did you guys get paid?
It was bi-weekly on Friday.
Bi-weekly on Friday? So if you get, and they did like direct deposit or something, probably. Most companies do that these days.
Yeah, that was how we were paid.
So if you got paid on Friday, that means that the person who owned the company had to make sure that the money to pay you was in the bank account on Wednesday. And because they hired a payroll company. I'm just guessing. I don't know what the company is. But most small businesses do this if they're smart. They hire a payroll company because if you screw up your payroll taxes, you're in big trouble. If you hire a payroll company, they do it correctly and you don't screw up your payroll taxes. So they find a payroll company. That payroll company is going to take the money out of the bank account Wednesday night, whether it's there or not. And so I would bet, maybe not when you were working there, but when that business was starting up, more than one Wednesday afternoon, the owner of that company drove to the bank and wrote a personal check to make sure that payroll is going to get covered. In these small companies, especially in the beginning stages, the owners or managers, whoever it is, they often don't have enough time to plan for the future because they're worried about paying their employees on Friday, biweekly. Biweekly was a good deal for that. So they didn't have to, at least they didn't have to run to the bank every Wednesday. And I'm sure it wasn't every week, but those kind of things happen. So what I want to talk about today is, has anybody ever been in class and had an epiphany and realized that you just thought of something that was going to make you rich and famous because of something you learned in class? Thought of an invention that you could make because of something that you heard in class? I got one no. Really? You guys just don't want to tell me what your inventions are. George, you said yes. Could you share with the group what it was you thought of?
The one I've definitely had a few ideas, but one that popped into my head recently was the design for a better way to mount a boat to the roof of a car. Definitely something I would have used when I was sailing, but.
So a better way to mount a boat to the roof of a car. In what class were you in when you had the thought? Was it related at all to the class, I should ask? Or were you just daydreaming?
Yes, we were. It was a high school class I was taking. We were talking about how we had to move supplies.
Okay.
We were looking at mounting systems, and it made me rethink how
you were thinking about moving boats. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So I remember it happened to me in a boundary value problems class. So I'm in a math class, and so boundary value problems. It's you basically you draw a box around the thing that you want to study. And then you know the things that are going into it, you know what's coming out of it, and it makes the math simpler. And I said, all right, computers are getting cheaper and cheaper. If we make the boxes smaller and smaller, and then we use a computer to do the math, I'm gonna be famous. I just invented a way to, you don't need calculus anymore. You can get rid of all the theoretical equations, get rid of calculus, because we can use computers to solve these problems. I invented finite element analysis. Unfortunately, somebody else had invented it 30 years before me, so I didn't get rich and famous from that invention. But sometimes we do have these great ideas, and if you have the ideas, keep having them, and eventually you pick one that you're going to act on, and maybe you will become rich and famous. The one I want you to imagine came to you in class is that you are going to start a company to manufacture the ME1800 Sterling engines, because you know that people are going to buy those. You believe, right? And you know that people are going to want to buy those from you. And so you and two of your best friends have decided that you're going to go into the business of manufacturing ME1800 Sterling engines. But before you can do that, you have to figure out how much it's going to cost so that you can raise enough capital so that you can start your company. And so I want to step through that. And what are the things that you think you're going to need if you're going to start a manufacturing company, start a company to make ME1800 Sterling engines? So I should be off the screen sharing now, and you guys should be able to see me in the whiteboard, right? View. I want it to be not this gallery view, but speaker view. There we go. And now I want to be the speaker. All right. So you guys can see the whiteboard? Excellent. So if you want to start manufacturing ME1800 Stirling engines, what do you need? You're going to start a company to make these things. What do you need? Somebody, I can't really see the chat thing, so shout it out.
Machines.
You need machine tools. That pen doesn't work very well. What else do you need?
Operators.
What else do you need?
Stock material.
What else do you need?
A location to put all of this.
We'll call it a facility. What else do you need?
Some sort of ad or some way to gain interest.
So you need marketing. What else do you need?
Most likely a sales team.
I can never remember if it's two E's or if it's EA.
EEAM. How did you?
Yeah, it looks better with EA. What else do we need? We need machine tools, we need operators, we need a facility, we need the stock material, we need a marketing and sales team.
Packaging.
We need packaging somewhere over here. I guess that goes here. I don't think I've ever had an ME1800 student say packaging, but you absolutely need packaging. You gotta have boxes to ship the stuff in. Are you going to do direct to consumer, or are you going to have a store, or are you going to have distributors? You need so you've got your marketing, you've got your sales team, you need, oh, what's the word for that? There's a special word. Oh, so sales method, we'll call it. That's not the special word. But you got to have the, so if you're going to have a storefront, then you got to have a storefront either as part of your facility or in addition to your facility.
Shipping.
Machine tools, operators, facility, stock material, packaging. What else do we need if we're starting a company?
Shipping.
What's that?
Shipping.
Shipping. So we need shipping contracts. What else do we need? Do we need tools? Anything else?
I don't know if this falls under machine tools, but what about the mills and lathes or what have you that will?
Yeah, that's machine tools.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
if
that's
machine
space
tools-
here because we have to decide what kind. So we need machine tools, we need operators, we need a facility, we need stock material, somebody to package it in when we ship it. We need the tools to do the cutting. What else do we need? We're starting a company. What do you imagine a company needs besides machine tools, operators, a facility, stock material, packaging, tools, marketing, sales team? Do we need janitors? Let's call them
Operators and
housekeepers.
janitors can easily just be put down and say staff.
So we need people to sweep the floor. What else do we need?
We'll just lean right into the assignment you gave us. We're gonna need some kind of business plan.
All right, but this is the information that we're gathering so that we could write the business
Put
plan.
together.
So, yeah,
Okay.
Funding.
we need capital. And doing this analysis should help us figure out how much capital we need. What are we missing? I think we're missing things like insurance, power, water, internet, heat. So your factory building, your facility needs to have all the same things that you need to have an apartment or a house too.
Personal protective equipment.
Power. What's that?
Personal protective equipment.
You need PPE. I think this is a fairly good list to get started. What kind of machine tools do you want? To make the parts that go in the Stirling engine. Again, I can't see the chat window, so just shout it out.
Flat end mills.
All right, so we need end mills. And you can, so this stuff, you've got all the CAM programs, right? For all the parts in the Stirling engine, you've got all the CAM programs, so you can figure out the tool list that you need to buy. Where could you get costs for buying tools? Anybody know? I'm going to suggest for the tools that you're going to need to buy that you look at mscdirect.com. That's one of those. Although I guess awkward angle on the marker. mscdirect.com. That would be a good place to look up the cost of these tools that you're going to need. Packaging. Anybody know where you can buy packaging on the internet? Anybody? My favorite packaging vendor is Uline. They have a website too. I recommend going to Uline for packaging materials. I hate to tell you, but this is a startup company. And you're the founder, you and your two best friends are the founders. And you guys are the sales and marketing team. And I mentioned in the assignment that you don't get to take a salary the first year. You are the floor sweepers. You may or may not be the operators. That's a decision that you need to make. But I guarantee you that you're going to be sweeping the floor, you're going to be taking out the trash at the beginning in this startup company. So, and you're going to be doing sales and marketing. And the sales method, I think you want to do direct to consumer and sell on the internet. But if you decide you want to have a storefront, you'll have to figure out how much that costs too. How do you find out the cost of stock material?
I know a website where you can get some good material, but I don't know about getting it on a large scale. Have you heard of McMaster?
So I'm going to suggest, for the purpose of this assignment, that you do in fact use McMaster Car to price your stock material. See if I can go back to share the screen.
I already have an account on that site.
And
Shout out to anyone who's
so when you go through to get the cost for your stock material, so what is the stock material we need? We need some aluminum bar stock to make the base and the Y block. We need some aluminum round stock to make the piston, and we need some brass round stock to make the cylinder. And then also we need to buy some test tubes. We need to buy some 1-inch diameter test tubes. I think they're 1-inch diameter. It says on the bill of materials thing. We need to buy these O-rings. You can price the O-rings at McMaster. So you need to get those things. Use McMaster Car for that. Or any other source that you know. You don't have to use the one that I suggest, but you do want to use a real source. And so if you go through their website, you can find out how much a 6-foot long bar of this material costs, or a 3-foot long bar. You can have them pre-cut it, I believe, to the actual lengths that you need. Yeah, so let's talk about the machine tools that we want. Turn off the screen share. So let's talk about the machine tools that we want. So you need a milling machine, right? Could you make all the parts if you didn't have a milling machine? Can you guys still hear me?
I can.
So could you guys make all the parts for the Sterling engine if you didn't have a milling machine?
I doubt it.
I also doubt it. So you need a milling machine. Do you need a lathe?
We did need to use a lathe to make the part.
We used a lathe when we made it in class. Do you need a lathe?
No, but it made it easier. But if you have to cut costs, you might have to use the mill.
So you could use the milling machine to make all the parts, but using a lathe and a mill would certainly make fixturing and setup easier, and it would allow you to get more throughput because you could be making the round parts and the prismatic parts at the same time. But that's a decision. You maybe need a lathe. You maybe could cut the parts without a lathe. We talked about labor rates. So in Worcester, in this area around Worcester, you're going to pay between $20 and $50 an hour for operators. So at the $50 an hour range, there'll be a skilled setup operator. There'll really be a machinist up at this range, and there'll be a button presser at this range. Now, maybe what you want is you want to be the $50 an hour person at the beginning, and you want to hire some $20 an hour people to push the buttons. I suppose that you could relocate to a different region where these numbers go down. But if you choose to do that, I would want you to tell me how you know that the numbers are lower at that different region. It's not the same around the country, so it changes. And you might decide that you and your friends are going to do this job as well as this job, as well as this job, and this job at the beginning. If we had a mill and a lathe, let's just assume we're going to get the mill and the lathe for now. We could get more than one of each, or we could just get one of each. That's a choice that you'll have to make in your business plan. So the more of these things that you want, the more capital you're going to need to ask for. And then the higher returns you're going to have to be able to justify over the first 3 years. Milling machines, mill lathe. Do we need a bandsaw?
If I recall, we need to use it at least once in the lab.
So that again is a question mark. Now, McMaster-Carr is not the cheapest source for these materials, but you can get pricing from them without having to call them up and bother them. You could find these materials cheaper if you used a local facility to buy them. But I don't want all 70 of you calling the local material suppliers asking them for pricing on stuff that you're not actually going to buy from them. So that's why I say use McMaster-Carr. But you can get these parts cut to the size that you need from McMaster-Carr that will cost more. But if you do that, you don't have to own a bandsaw. So you could decide if you're going to not own a bandsaw, you just have to get all the stock material cut to length before it arrives to you. When you choose your lathe, it will tell you how long the spindle is, because you can pass material through the spindle. When you choose your lathe, that will determine the longest bar of material that you can put in the lathe. But for the mill, you're going to want to have the parts cut to the size that you're going to put in your fixture. How do you find out how much this stuff costs?
You can go on the Haas website.
I was going to suggest that. So if you go to hawscnc.com, please don't ask them for a quote. Don't ask them to mail you a quote. You can go to their build and price page here. Oops. That's just a screenshot of the website. I can't really scroll down the website and show you how you go through. But you can go to their build and price page on the Haas website, and you can decide what features you want. And from that, you can get the cost to buy your milling machine and your lathe. Should you buy, or you might not want the lathe. There's probably other machine tool manufacturers that have a similar thing, but again, don't call up a machine tool salesperson and ask them for a quote for a machine you're not going to buy from them, because you don't want to get their hopes up. Especially this last quarter of the year, they all want to get their numbers up so they can make more money this year. So, but going on the website and filling it in, getting a price back, that's not going to get anybody's hopes up too high. So you can do that. Look for your mill and your lathe. What else do we need? The facility. How are you going to find out the cost of the facility? Any ideas? If you wanted to go rent a space to run your machine shop, what would you do?
Gotta find a trusty realtor.
Did you find a realtor? Could you do anything before you find a realtor?
Is there a website you would recommend?
How about?
Still only free.
Worcester, Mass. Commercial Real Estate, loopnet.com. This is a good one. You can find out about other things. So here we go. You could buy this building in Leicester. I know that building. You could buy this building in Leicester for $2.5 million. This is actually a really cool building. It's probably bigger than what you need. Let's go back to results over here. Rather than looking at all the for sale ones, you could look at the for lease ones. And so this one, wow, it's fancy inside, huh? Nice fancy offices. This is on Shrewsbury Street, I think. Does it say that? Oh, it does. Yep. I also recognize this building. So that one might be kind of expensive for you. $21 a square foot is what it said. So what does $21 a square foot mean? So how many square feet was the building, did it say?
2,300 square
Oh, it
feet.
says 2,300 square feet. All right, so let me turn off, stop the screen share. All right, so it was 2,300 square feet. And it was $21 a square foot. So what's 21 times 2,300?
48,300.
48,300. This is per year. So this is per year. If you want to estimate the monthly cost, then you divide by 12, right? So that's what $21 a square foot means when you're looking at commercial real estate. So it's $21 per square foot per year. So you need $50,000 just to rent that facility. For the first year. You could probably find something smaller. 2,300 square feet. It's pretty big for 1 mill and 1 lathe. But you can look around, you can get an estimate on the cost. You could decide to buy a building instead of leasing the space. And then you could put that into your capital ask. I think that's going to be harder to convince the bank, especially with an unproven company. What else? All right, so you can get pricing for your facility. Now you could do that. So if you decide not to be in Worcester, if you'd rather be in, I don't know, Bluffton, South Carolina, you can search LoopNet for Bluffton, South Carolina to find space. Or if you'd rather be in Cambridge, because you want people to think that you're from MIT and not WPI, you can do that and you can get the pricing there. But you won't find that building for $21 a square foot in Cambridge. It'll be more like $50 a square foot. We got facility. We got operators. You're going to decide if you're going to hire operators. How much is the insurance going to cost? Let's just say that this stuff altogether is going to cost $15,000 per year. That way you don't have to make all those estimates individually. If you were doing this for real and you're going to go present it to a bank, you'd need to go get quotes from an insurance broker. You need to find out, talk to the power company, estimate your power usage, all those things. I don't need you to go into that much depth because I really want you to focus on this stuff and this to figure out how much money you need. Now, things like the machine tools, you could buy them or you could lease them. And if you decide that you want to buy them, you can finance them. It's just like buying a used car. And so if you want to figure out what monthly costs to either buy or lease those are, you can find leasing or purchase amortization calculators on the internet. So, so like a loan amortization. Typical time to finance a machine tool might be 5 years. Often they'll do like a lease. It'll be a 5-year lease with a buyout at the end, or a $1 buyout at the end. So it appreciates the entire value of the machine over those 5 years. The machines are still usable after 5 years, but they're really considered their usable life is somewhere in that 5 to 7 year range for accounting purposes. So decide if you're going to buy or lease the machine tools. Decide if you're going to be the operators. It is you and your 2 best friends. And then I want you to make a presentation or a 4-page business plan. And this is not, doesn't have to be a formal business plan. It does need to outline what I call the cost of making the first part. And so the cost of making the first part includes acquiring all the stuff you need in order to make that first part. So what is it going to cost you to start the company? What is it going to cost to operate the company for that 3-year period? You should know the costs, because those things you have some control over, and you can decide there's a variable in the cost depending on how many parts you plan to manufacture. And you're going to have to make some estimates. And when you're doing this for a startup company, you don't really know what the sales are going to be. You know that you believe that there are going to be sales, right? So I want you to make some fairly reasonable projections here in your business plan so you can present it to the person who's going to provide you with the startup capital. And then that person, that investor, is going to want their money back at the end of 3 years. So you need to make your business plan show that that person can get paid back at the end of 3 years. So does that sort of clarify what the assignment is and the thought process?
For the most part, I do have a question or two myself.
Go for it.
All right. In terms of formatting for this, I'm going to sound foolish, but what exactly is the full format for like a business plan or for this assignment? Are we looking at, say, a PowerPoint style presentation, an essay style kind of thing?
So yeah, so often you'd have a written document and a PowerPoint, or in getting money, they call it a slide deck, but it's a PowerPoint. So often you would have a PowerPoint and sort of a written narrative of the proposal. What I'm asking for is actually just the written narrative. I don't need the PowerPoint, but to present this for real, you'd want to have both. So I'm looking for a written narrative that says, maybe I could find a really good one from last year and share it with you guys, except that would have all the numbers in it.
I would love that. I think that would absolutely help.
Figure out the numbers. But so I'll put together an outline for you, but it needs to start off with basically an introduction of the idea and why you think people are going to want to buy these Stirling engines that you propose to manufacture. Now, I've told you that you think that, so you might have to read my mind about why you think. Come up with a reasonable story that doesn't take more than about 2 paragraphs about why the product is viable. And then you want to go into basically a description of how you plan to deliver the product. So what you're going to do, you're going to rent this facility, you're going to hire this number of operators, you're going to lease this mill and this lathe. We estimate it's going to cost $15,000 a year for utilities, and then the per part cost for making these parts and shipping them to the customers is going to be this. We figure we have this, and this is our sales and marketing plan. Don't put a lot of effort into describing the sales and marketing plan for this presentation, because that's not the focus of this class, right? The focus of this class is understanding this part of the cost. And so I want you to focus on, we think it's going to cost this much, and if we can sell this many over this time period, then we'll be able to make the money back. So that's really what I want you to focus on for the report.
All right.
You would, in a real situation where you were actually going asking for capital, you'd have to focus a lot on this, and you probably wouldn't talk as much about this.
As an idea, if you wanted to put forward a good example from last year, you could just replace all the numbers they put down with characters like X or something.
Yeah, I could redact the important information. I might do that, or I might just make an outline that describes what we just talked about.
Cool.
Any other questions? Any other questions about not necessarily just the assignment, but the things that go into starting up this company?
Since assembly is a lab for next week, right?
Yeah, you guys can do assembly and the lab practical next week.
Since that's not going to be happening till next week, do you have an image of the Stirling engine we could all look at?
I'm sure that I do. I just walked over to the other side of my room here to pick one up and hold it in front of the camera.
Cool.
But there isn't an assembled one in this room. I don't want to go walk around the lab right now. But yeah, we've got several pictures, and I can forward that to you. Or you know what I'll do is I'll attach it to the document. This is the document you guys are working from. So I will add pages to this document and add that picture for you.
The document we're working from?
So if you go to your Canvas page. Oh. That's because I'm talking about the thing that's on my computer screen, not the thing that you can see. So yeah, this is the document that you're working from. You just can't see it because I'm not sharing the screen.
So.
But this is the text of the assignment, and that's embedded in the Canvas site. So I will add the picture to the end of this for you after class.
Where is the document? I see it like on Canvas, but I don't see the
Exactly.
Google Drive file.
This is embedded in the Canvas page.
Okay. So it's
By
just
using
that.
file publish to the web.
Sweet.
So that I can update the document without having to edit Canvas.
That helps. Thank you, Professor.
So any other questions or questions about the class? I mean, we're coming to an end here.
Oh, I'm gonna wait until let's ask that question.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. When can we plan for like the last, like our final like test?
That'll be live on Monday. It'll be due on Friday. So you'll have all next week to work on it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right. The PowerPoint presentation for the lab. Is it possible someone might be able to get those to download?
Yeah, I can give you links to those. They're all in Google Slides. Anything else? So for the first time in the entire term, I finished early instead of late. I think today must be the day you have to go fill out your course evaluation forms. Because I gave you some extra time.
I haven't gotten any emails on that yet.
I don't even know how that works this term. I'll find out, but I think the forms are available to you. The registrar sends them out. It's all online now.
It's worth asking a few questions.
Yep.
One, the week 5 quiz, since we didn't end up taking it, do you still, I haven't seen it.
It's in the grade book. You got.
No, I'm not talking about the grade. I'm talking about the question.
Oh, you wanted, I was gonna post some questions. I'll write that down. I just forgot to do that when we talked about it.
Yeah, I was hoping I could look at those for studying purposes. I want to know specifically because only like quiz 3 was particularly heavy on math. Quiz 4, when we were coming up with our own question, had some math one,
Yeah.
including looking at tolerances. I don't know how much would have been on quiz 5.
Yeah, it's the math heavy quiz of the course is the week 3 quiz.
Okay, how math heavy versus conceptual heavy is the final?
Yes.
No, I mean how much? How is it?
It's. I was trying to make a joke. It's all of the math questions are like the ones that you've seen on quiz 3. So it's about 20 to 30% sort of math problems, and the rest is conceptual problems,
Cool, thank you.
which is about the mix of the class.
If I have a question about the wording of a quiz question, not about the content, but like the wording of it, will you be available to me?
Yeah, I mean, actually, if you have questions about the wording of questions, the best thing to do is post it in the discussion forum, because if you have a question about it, then everybody else probably has a question too.
Yeah, I remember in a previous quiz, I found something where the wording was like something does not are the text provided, and I was like,
Some of those questions were written by a non-English speaker.
I thought that was just actually something that like was left on canvas as like instructions on someone creating a quiz and wasn't backspace.
Yeah, it could be that something got lost in copy and paste too. I am positive that there are typos in the quiz questions. Anything else? You guys excited about the B term break there, the break from A and B term? 2 days.
I'm glad I live in New Hampshire, so I'm not far away.
So anybody taking any fun classes in B term? We could end the call too, if you guys are done. All right.
I need to be away to a class, so.
So the final will be up and available to you on Monday, and we're going to have another lecture on Tuesday next week. So if you have questions about the questions in the final, you might want to prepare those by Tuesday so that we can talk about it. And if you finish it on Tuesday, you won't have to worry about it the rest of the week when you're working on your other finals. Just a thought. All right, I will see you on Tuesday unless I'm going to see you in lab today.
Thank you.
Thanks.